This is Blenderstyle, a show where we talk about an extreme blend of music, and today I'm pulling the trigger on the man, Morrissey. Maladjusted, released in 1997.
Cheers, gentlemen.
boys.
Cheers.
We're pretty maladjusted, I guess.
So Morrissey is obviously, was the lead singer of the band The Smiths.
Mm-hmm.
And this is his sixth solo project. This was the first record of Morrissey that I really connected with. So I was always a Smiths fan. When I was younger, I was like, I like the Smiths more than I do Morrissey. And I had all the same reasons that everyone else hates him, kind of, And
what do you mean? What are those reasons that people?
I mean, he's like, say like, he doesn't want, he's like anti-pop, he's anti this and that, but he has to be the spotlight of the room. He's very, he is who he is, and he's niche, it's, I mean,
Okay.
we could talk about different Morrissey stuff.
I'm not a fan, so I'm curious about like some of this perspective.
So anyways, I was a Smiths fan. And then later on, to this day, I could say now that, people are divided, but I am a Morrissey fan more than I am a Smiths fan.
Really? Do you hear that a lot? People like jump ship and become Morrissey fans more than the Smiths fans?
I think most people want to say that they're the Smiths. They're more fans of the Smiths than Morrissey, especially now because one of the things that always drew me towards him and the Smiths were that they were defiant. They were just like
against the norm.
Yeah, they were against the norm, and he was just he's like a G.G. Allen, but with words. I don't know. I was drawn to Morrissey.
Okay, so at the intro, you said this was his sixth project?
No, his sixth
Solo
album.
album.
Okay.
So like the Smiths
Holy
were like,
crap.
they were a band for like 5 years. Came out with some really good records. I mean, they're a very influential band. Influenced the Cranberries and.
So I'm not familiar with either one of them.
So I was going to ask you that, how much you got into this, and you're like me, not at all.
No, my wife played the Smiths just like last week or the week before for me. That's the first time I think I've ever heard them. This is the
you've
first
definitely
time
heard the
I've
Smiths.
Morrissey. Well, I mean, I might have, but
In passing,
actually
for sure.
knowing that it was the actual Smiths.
I'm kind of the same. Like, I avoided this. To me, this was like in the same camp as The Cure. Like, I had friends that listened to The Cure, and I'm like, what?
To me, this was in the camp of poetry nerds.
Which they had a feud.
Which I didn't know that then, but I realized that now,
Yeah.
having reviewed
So we had
listened to this
we
a
had
lot.
some friends growing up that were into Morrissey and the Smiths, and I always just associate with them being that snobby, I know more than you attitude kind of thing.
It feels
And
like
maybe
that.
kind of touch on what Nate said, like he felt like he needed to be the center of attention in the room or
It
whatever.
feels like that.
And I felt like everybody we hung out with back in the day
The
that
album art
listened to
feels
this
like that.
was like, oh, I know more than you because I listened to this.
So like everyone knows
true.
the story of like when he played Coachella and he like stopped playing because of the meat that was being cooked. I was at that.
I
My
didn't
My
know this
coworker
story.
was at that, and he's
And
like,
so
"Oh, I'll
let's-
tell you about Morrissey." He's like, "I smell flesh burning."
So this is
Oh
funny
my
to-
God.
So
This guy.
this is funny to me though because like I'm there watching it and like I'm a fan. And I'm not really bummed because I'm like, he's Morrissey. He can like kind of do whatever the fuck he wants. And that's like what it is. It's like Danzig. People talk shit on Danzig. I'm like, he's Danzig. I don't give a fuck.
So when I was-
Even if he cancels on me, I'm like, fuck, I'm fucking still buying a ticket. Gonna chance it.
Danzig's not going to perform. He got knocked out backstage.
By Axl
Northside
Rose.
Kings, bro.
So I Googled, or I looked up Morrissey for like YouTube videos. I wanted to see what he was all about and whatnot. And the thing I found is someone like talking about how he like left the show early because it was too cold. And he's like in the
There's
three-piece
assumptions,
suit.
yeah.
I just started cracking up. I'm like, who the fuck is this guy?
Put a coat on. Get the motherfucker a coat.
It doesn't definitely has a pretentious vibe to it.
Yeah.
So,
Which is very like English.
Yes.
And he's came from Irish immigrant parents and stuff like that.
I watched like 10 seconds of an interview with him, and it was like hard to watch. And I'm like, I fuck with this guy at that level. Like it doesn't bother me.
He's like a Charles Manson. He says shit in a way that like that bitch is.
He's a CIA asset.
He's batshit crazy, but when you think about it, you're like,
well, I guess
he's making Unabomber sense.
Unabomber sense is like a phrase we should coin on our show.
No, that's horrible. It's terrible. Terrorists are bad.
So this album received lukewarm reception from critics. I guess it was a departure from his previous albums.
Yeah.
And it was his last album for 7 years. Like,
whoa.
Was he throwing a temper tantrum and just like, I'm not going to make anything else?
Well, he had also done music since what? 97? No, 82.
Okay. I was like, this came out in 97.
He needed a break.
Yeah.
Can I ask you?
He also came out with You Are the Quarry, and that album fucking kicks ass. So anyways, this
was that
album
before or after
was
that one?
After.
Okay.
This, Maladjusted.
So let me ask you. Sorry. Let me ask you a question. No, go ahead. Say what you were going to say, and then I'll ask my question.
This is my newbie pick of a Morrissey pick, because this is the first record that I ever like fully got into by Morrissey, right? But now that I've listened to other Morrissey records, like it fluctuates.
So that's why you picked this one, because this is your.
It's my first, kind of like Tom Waits' Rain Dogs. That was like my first introduction.
Okay.
So I'm like bringing my first introduction to one of my favorite artists.
Okay, so I'm glad this is my question. So is this album like important in your life, or is it just the gateway to become, you know what I mean?
It's nostalgia.
Some albums are just like, this is sacred to me, and I need to know that.
Trouble Loves Me is a song that has followed me for many, many years. And kind of like Trouble. Like I recently went through a Morrissey phase, which I do often. And still like kind of like how we brought up with Pearl Jam, like it kind of comes back to you. And this song, Trouble Loves Me, always comes back to me. Even when my life is good and things are great, like I love it.
That song did kind of stick out to me.
Mm-hmm.
But my comment is wimpy. So I'm glad you told me that.
He says that Trouble loves him, but he's still he's still persistent.
I dig the
I like the struggle.
He has so
it is a fucking
he's a
struggle.
dark comedy. He's a dark comedy, and if you really he's funny. He's a smart ass. He's good looking. At times, okay. I think he
looked hot on this cover in '97. Bringing it, bro.
Style, dude.
He looked like a boy band.
Well, like what I love about this is it has like an indie rock feel too. Like some of his.
Okay, what genre is this, bro? Indie rock, alternative rock.
It's like
when I was growing up, I would have called this emo, but that's like a catch-all. Like when people say I don't like screamo, when they really mean death metal. That bothers me. I don't want to call this emo because that's not what
it's emotional music, so I wouldn't call it emo. And I don't like the word emo. I don't even like indie. The only reason why I say indie is because, like, when it came out, even like in '97, like there were bands like Built to Spill and like that you would consider.
'97 indie made more sense than it did in 2001 when everyone's just like, hey.
Yeah. Well, I'm not saying that. I'm just
indie.
saying that this is definitely like their writing is kind of, mixing like old and new Morrissey for me in this.
So there's good instrumentation on this.
The playing's pretty good.
The playing's pretty decent. I like
the drums are good.
Meandering kind of thing going on in the background the whole time. I hate that he just tells these little stories of what he's seeing at the time. Like,
so the first song really fucks with you.
Like Royce Keane. He's talking about a window cleaner.
The Beatles. I'm not a Beatles fan, but the Beatles had Penny Lane. They're very simple songs, and this is what this guy's doing, throwing dark humor in a Beatles song.
And there is some like underlying, like, you get, like, the first time I listened to it, I was like, this is just this dude talking. I'm sitting on the bench. Oh, look, a seagull stole that dude's sandwich. Oh, it's flying away now. Like this kind of shit. I'm just like, this is fucking lame.
So can I tell you my first impression of it is the first song, Maladjusted, is literally my first like introduction to sit down and listen to Morrissey. And the lyrics, like his delivery, I'm glad he doesn't do this on the whole album.
Mm-hmm.
But he's like, let's start from before the beginning. I'm like,
yes. It's like, are you drunk?
I'm like, he's not even, is he on time? Like, he feels like he's going longer than he should. But after a couple of listens, I actually appreciate that a lot about
For sure,
that
dude.
song's good.
Yeah.
But is it like, it's poetry, right?
And
That's
what,
like the-
it's
what
like a
the draw-
poetry. It's like a poetry slam to like a diddle going on in the background. There's
Is that what it is for you're a poetry guy? Is that what it is for
Well,
you?
yeah, I do. Obviously, it's like I enjoy the lyrics and like what he's saying, and like I've said this to you guys before. The way I can describe it is the way he writes is it unless you hear it in song, sometimes you'll just read the lyrics and you're like, what the fuck is this guy fucking kind of talking
No,
about?
it doesn't make-
And then when you hear him actually perform it and say it the way he says it, talks it, or however you want to explain, it makes more sense, and you almost get some of the darkness of it even more, or you get even some of the humorous things that shouldn't be humorous, and you know what I mean.
But yeah, one of the lyrics is, I don't dwell on things I'm missing. I'm just pleased with the things I found, which I appreciate. But what, dude?
See,
Why are we?
and
It's
I
like
don't
that's
really,
like a vibe. Like the vibe is weird.
Yeah.
I don't really agree with it because I feel like the stories on this and like the stuff he's saying I like better without the music.
Oh.
Just because
I almost would agree, kind of.
because I think
Because reading it,
I think I understand it better as a story than I do as a song.
Mm.
To call it a song to me just it doesn't make a lot of sense. But that being said, listening to the music, it's catchy, and I kind of keep coming back to it. And be like, oh, I really like this. But then he starts telling his story, and I'm like, this makes no sense to me.
So isn't this what makes things interesting, right?
Uh-huh.
Like, say somebody like Tom Waits has his dark,
Tom Waits is
growling.
super interesting, though.
you know what
Yeah.
I mean? But this is what kind of makes Morrissey interesting, though, is that he's good with words. He kind of throws them out there like fucking. Well, I guess they're, you know, like there's
Alma
something
Mater's-
about that's his fucking style. You
So
know?
Alma Mater's bugs me,
Okay.
but the lyric, like the way he uses the word, it's like rap. I've been digging a lot of rap lately. Like
Uh-huh.
while listening to this, I'm listening to a lot of rap.
Yeah.
So like I can't help but compare. His delivery is very like, it's really nice
Yeah, dude.
on a lot of this actually.
Yeah, I love that also, like, there's kind of all kinds of different vibes going on here. And then, like, you literally end it with Satan Rejected My Soul, which is just a rocker. You're like, wait a minute.
That's probably the most song on
It
here.
does
like,
rock as
we just waited for a rocker to the very end. Fucking bravo, buddy.
The lyrics are kind of cringy though. He's like, even
Yeah.
Satan doesn't want me. I'm come on, bro.
Like,
This is
dude,
cringy somewhat. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like it's so you mentioned like reading it. Like when
Yeah.
I sat down, I would just like I would listen to it and listen to the lyrics so you can understand what he's saying, and then I would like read it and be like more like focused on it, and then I would just read them without the music playing, and I kind of like it better
And that's
Oh.
kind of where I'm at.
because it's such a like wimpy delivery.
And that's the thing
It's
that gets me.
hard
the
to
delivery.
overcome, but it does rock. It's indie rock. I think that's what it is. But it's
I hate
emotional.
that term, but yeah.
But I think that's alternative. Yeah,
Yeah.
and it kind of rocks sometimes. The band's good, and he can sing good, but it's just like
The guy that wrote these songs had, he'd, been with them for, I'm
It's
guessing,
sappy.
for many, many years. Huh? It's sappy? Yeah. Well, that's what I love about it.
You sappy fuck.
So, I mean, what would you rate it, Casey?
So I'm going to start off by saying I don't like this album at all. But at the same time, when I was doing my final review through it, I was going through it and I was like, oh, that song's good. That song's good. That song's good. That song's good. I think I marked every song on here except for like 3 or 4 as being a good song. And so I got to give it credit. I give it a 3.5. It's not
Nice.
my cup of tea. It's not, to me, something that I would go back to. But there's some catchy stuff in here. And like Nathan said, there's a lot of sarcasm and dark humor in the lyrics that work better to me as a read idea, like a story, instead of over the music. And I think it kind of touches, like you said, it's just the timing of the vocal delivery and stuff that throws it off to me.
Uh-huh.
And maybe listening to it more. I mean, the first 3 or 4 times I listened to it, I was like, this is stupid. Why the hell did Nathan pick this? But then I caught myself going back to it and being like, oh, there's something here. So I think it could probably go higher. But for now, I'm going to leave it at 3.5.
So what's like catching your attention? Like what made the difference when you were going back?
It was the
Because
music.
you look at the song title and you're like,
I think the band's killing it.
I think it's the music, because honestly, I like the stories, like the Roy's King. That was the first song that I was like, oh, this is pretty
that one
funny.
jumps out at me a little bit too.
But I like the story, but I don't like the story with the music. But I like the music on its own. I like the story on its own. Same with the Satan Rejected My Soul. I feel like it works better as a rock song, maybe with different lyrics, but I like the story and the thematic thing that he's telling throughout it.
What a
Man.
trip.
All right. So I asked you to pick Morrissey because you're like I knew this about you. You're a Morrissey fan. You're like the Smiths. You know what I mean? I knew this. And this is a band, a person I never got into. But I hear everyone talking. Every time I dabbled, I'm like, "Ooh, not for me," and I just recoil away like a snake.
Like, I need to be forced to listen to this.
Yes, force me to listen to this, Snake, and you did. It was, dude. This is hard for me to get, but I rarely do this. But my initial score was 3.0, but I think I got to get a 3.3.
Okay.
It is good, and the more I like expose myself to it, the more I like it.
Yeah.
I'm just like it's like food I don't like, but I know it's like good food. You know what I mean? Like fragua, which I've never had, but you know what I mean? Like I imagine that's gross the first time, but like it kind of
Yeah, it's like I like oysters, but I don't eat oysters every day.
and maybe that's it because I did kind of like try to force myself to like really get into it. I'll tell you what, Nathan, it went from like a 1.0 to like a 2.0 to a
That's where it
3.0.
was with me, and I think it'll climb more. But
I do
that's
too,
awesome.
honestly.
Yeah.
Like, and I started listening to the Smiths, and it was just in the background when cooking. I just had this nasty face on a look on my face,
Dude,
like.
Oh,
the
that's because you
guitar
were
playing,
cooking.
Johnny Marr's guitar playing, and that is like, this is what I love about this history of this man and the band, the Smiths. Everybody should go listen to Morrissey and the Smiths. Who cares who you like more or whatever, but like Johnny Marr's guitar playing has like influenced so many bands. So this is what I like about this, everything about this is that they're unique. So Johnny Marr is unique, and when I hear a band like the Cranberries, I realize they're influenced by Johnny Marr. It's a niche, right?
Yeah.
Not everybody likes it, but it's the people that do get it, and they see it where it's at. Morrissey is a guy that with the lyrics, the delivery, and stuff like that when I see it in another band, I'm like,
There's the
they
influence.
get it. And then later on, I wouldn't be surprised if I read that they're like a Morrissey fan. Like, Brand New influence, Modest Mouse influence.
So is this?
Morrissey is...
So you're giving the respect of like Depeche Mode that like kind of influenced a lot of music, right?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I agree that they are like, somewhat in the same realm of things, but I mean, I like Morrissey more than I do Depeche Mode, and like I wouldn't...
Really? Wow. No
sure.
way. Well,
Wow.
no fucking way.
No,
for me
for sure.
personally.
I
So
just-
what would you rate it, Nathan?
I give this record a 4.8.
Nice, dude.
I think it's a really good, solid record. I think also other albums are better
Really?
from Morrissey, also.
I was going to ask you that.
Viva Hate, like literally his debut from the Smiths, like, right afterwards.
So he came out swinging. I didn't go listen to it at all, but
Yeah, and totally kind of switched up his image and how things are. And this is another thing that I like about him is he can try different things, and he can somewhat pull it off. He's not the greatest at it, but he fucking pulls it off with balls. I like it. 4.8.
Nice.
good pick.
We are Blenderstyle, and that was Morrissey, Maladjusted, and Satan has rejected our souls.
Bummer, dude. No one wants me.